Okay, go ahead. Hello, everybody. I want to call today's February 28th meeting of the Planning, Development, and Environmental Quality Committee to order. This is actually our first meeting of the year as in this configuration. So I want to thank everybody for the new members that are joining us today. And I heard that Henry Granison asked to be excused from the meeting. Just to let people know. And do we have any public people here for public comment, Brittany?
We do not.
Okay. I have one piece of mail or email that came in, so I want to read at least parts of this. This was submitted, an email from Katie Baildon, and people should have received this. This was sent out on the 24th. And this says, I urge you to pass resolution 10749, calling on Governor Hochul and the state of New York to pass the Birds and Bees Protection Act. It is imperative that we protect and enhance our state's biodiversity by significantly limiting the use of neonicotinoids, commonly known as neonics, which are toxic to insects, birds, and even mammals. More and more research is pointing to the harm of these neurotoxic pesticides and their relative lack of effectiveness in the situations that the Birds and Bees Protection Act aims to restrict. I'm currently a resident of the town of Ithaca and have lived and worked in Tompkins County for nearly a decade. I grew up just over the border in Kyoga County, so Ithaca has always been my downtown. I'm also the policy coordinator for the Northeast Organic Farming Association of New York, a membership-based organic education, advocacy, and certification organization. In this role, I engage with a coalition of organizations advocating for the Birds and Bees Protection Act on behalf of NOFA New York's membership. While neonics are prohibited in organic agriculture, organic farmers are very concerned about their harms, and I share these concerns. Specifically, neonics kill pollinators that are essential for pollinating apples, blueberries, cherries, among other New York fruits and vegetables. Kill natural predators of plant pests that organic producers rely on for pest control. Damage soil health by harming critical organisms and microbial communities. As a resident of New York, on behalf of NOFA New York, I urge you to pass this necessary resolution to signal to the state of New York the urgent need to safeguard pollinators, waterways, people, and the future of our food supply by banning unnecessary and harmful neonic uses. And thank you for your consideration. And that was Katie Baildon. And do we have any changes to the agenda? Okay, and we have somebody here, Hannah. What's your last name again?
Walliar.
Walliar, and she came to talk to us and explain more about the Birds and Bees Protection Act resolution that we have, but that I'll ask her to speak a little bit more about that when we go over that later in the agenda. And do we have any changes to the agenda from anybody? Okay, and as next, we have chair's report. I just wanted to say that we have a very full agenda today, so I'll try and keep things and ask for your help in trying to keep things as crisp as possible. With that being said, if there's something, of course, you want to say, say it, but just think about how somebody already said that same thing. And same thing with questions. If it's something that, is not pertinent to what's on today's schedule, we'll try and think about, do you need to ask that today? Then for the advisory board appointments are next on our agenda. And let's see, first off, we'll do the Water Resources Council, Jenna Durario is being appointed. Her term is expiring 12/31/23. And then we have Richard Neville Senior to the Tompkins County EMC, the Environmental Management Committee. And his term will expire 12/31/23. Also, I think it's the same date, yep. And so can we take these all together, Brittany, with the other ones? Do we need to vote on these?
We do, yes.
Okay, do we need to vote on, can we take all of them together, the other ones that we have, or should we do these separate?
If we could do the advisory board appointments separately, that'd be great.
Okay, so would
I'll
someone?
move them, Annie.
Deborah, seconded by Greg. Any, if we need discussion, we'll go into executive session. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call. Greg,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. And then next we have more committee assignments. And I wanted to thank everybody, who volunteered and talked me through this. We have a lot of appointments, and for those of you who maybe weren't planning on doing quite so much this year, I appreciate you chipping in. Let's see. So I don't know if I need to read through these all. There's quite a lot on here. So
You don't have to.
so let's, and so then we have the voting seats. They need to be taken separately as a vote. Would anybody like to move? That would be packet page 4. Would anybody like to move those assignments?
I'll move them, Annie.
Deborah, and seconded by Randy. Thank you. Any discussion before we vote on those? Okay, let's have another vote. Greg,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So that passes. And on the next page, we don't need to vote on packet page 5. That's the liaison assignments, non-voting. And I just wanted to note on one of those, the Strategic Tourism Planning Board. Henry has agreed to serve on that. We also do have one other seat that's available. Again, that's non-voting. That was filled before by Anna Kellis, who was previously on the legislature. But I think we're pretty well served on getting information back, because our legislator, Greg Mezey, he's also a member of that board serving from the business community, representing the business community. Is that correct, Greg?
I have an at-large seat that I've had. I think I started in 2019 or about that. I still have time on my term, but it's an at-large seat that I have.
Okay, well, I feel that we're still, as far as being represented and getting information back and forth, I feel that we're doing pretty good, but that is an open seat if anybody is interested at some other point. Okay, so thank you on that. And then we're going to go right on to minutes approval. And because, as I said, this is our first meeting of this committee, PDEC, in its current form, we have 2 sets of minutes. One is from the previous configuration of this committee, PEAK, Planning, Energy and Environmental Quality Committee, from January 24th. So could somebody move those minutes? Randy, seconded by Deborah. Any discussion? Okay, I'll do a roll call. Deborah?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's unanimous for the peak meeting minutes. And January 27th, we have HED, that's the Housing and Economic Development Committee. So we have those minutes to approve. Would someone like to move those? Greg? Deborah? Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I wasn't at that meeting. Can I still vote or should I abstain?
Yes, you can still vote.
Okay.
Sometimes when people aren't at meetings, they choose to abstain. But often you are allowed to vote. Okay.
I read them.
All righty. Deborah,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that passes unanimously also. And now we're moving right on to county administration. Let's see, we have Lisa Holmes here, our interim county administrator. And if you're following along in the agenda packet or online, it's packet page 20. And this is 2022 department goals for planning, for this committee. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in the interest of time, I just wanted to make everyone aware and refer you to page 20 of the agenda packet, where the departments that report to peak have submitted their departmental goals work plan for 2022, so that you have a good sense of what is on each department's plate and what they're planning to do for the year. And also to inform you as you set the committee goals. So that everyone is working in sync. I wasn't intending to go over them in my report, but just make you aware of them, and the departments, the respective departments are here. If you have particular questions about those departments, you can ask the respective department heads. And I see, for instance, planning had it under their agenda item that to discuss their goals. So just for your information and reference.
Okay, I just want to first thank our planning department, Katie and Megan, and then also Barb Ekstrom from our recycling and materials management. They all sat down separately with Greg Mezey, the vice chair, and I, and went through, gave us some time, quite a lot of time to go through these individually, the goals, and also what the planning department did last year. So first I'll open it up. Did anybody from the departments want to say anything before I open it up to questions? Barb?
Yes, quickly, I forgot to include our mission statement. What would be the best way of me sharing that with the committee?
I think, how long is it?
It's really brief. It's a couple sentences, but I think it would be good, like Katie did, for me to have it to you in writing.
Yeah, if you could send that to us, that'd be great by email.
I will do that.
And then, Brittany, could that be then included?
Yes.
Yeah, so then Brittany, our clerk, will include that in the minutes. So then it'll be
Okay, I can go ahead and send it directly to Brittany and she would share it. I think that's how they like to do it down there.
That'd be perfect.
Okay.
Okay, any questions from the legislators? We also have Rosemary Avila from Workforce.
Hello, everyone. Just a quick note on our mission statement. We have created one and we're just reviewing that with our executive committee. So it would have to be approved and hopefully we can share with the committee sometime in March.
Sounds great. I think are you coming back in March anyway, right? To talk to us about some things. So that'd be perfect.
Yes.
Deborah?
Yeah, I'll try to be crisp. But an explanation is in order. We used to not have goals, and things evolved however they evolved. And then when Jason came, we started having committee goals, which was a good way to have a metric against which to judge our effectiveness. But on the other hand, as some of our department heads pointed out, it conflicts sometimes with the department's work plan. So I want to commend Annie and Greg for meeting with our departments and getting the info on their work plans so that whatever we choose to pursue as a committee will not interfere, and there will be synergies in our efforts and staff efforts. So thank everybody who participated in this.
Thank you, Deborah. Okay, Lisa, was there anything else you wanted to report from administration at this right now? I know we're gonna have a legislative meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'll save the rest for tomorrow night. So not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, and thank the departments for getting your goals together for us. And as a committee, we'll be discussing, briefly some of the goals that we want to have. But I really see it as our job as a committee and legislators is to, support the policies that you are working on in your really extensive work plans. So please let us know and keep us informed throughout the year, and we will support you as best we can. So thank you. And we'll go right down to Department of Planning and Sustainability. Was there anything you wanted to talk about regarding, I guess that would be Katie. And I do know the flood map training, or not training, but the information meeting is happening right now. So I appreciate you coming to our meeting a little bit. Was there anything you wanted to share on your goals? Anything else?
Well, I guess, Anne, you had asked me to highlight just a couple of the items in our 2022 work program. So I thought I would highlight a couple of them. So the first one is the Countywide Code Enforcement Study, which is one of our key planning initiatives that the legislature funded last year for this year's budget. And I just want to let you know that we are kind of looking at ways to kind of retitle that, because I think countywide code enforcement will be one of the options that we'll be looking at as part of this study, but it's kind of more than just that one option. I think we're also going to be looking at ways that we could enhance communication amongst code officers and standardized data collection and kind of just efficiency, streamlining kind of good government practices. So that's just to let you know, as we've been trying to build out the RFP to hire a consultant, we've been thinking through this a little bit more. The other one I wanted to let you know about is broadband expansion. I did report, as you saw in the minutes, to HED last month on this topic, but we've been waiting to see if we would get kind of draft initial data from the state on their physical survey of broadband infrastructure. And we did indeed get that data from them. So we're working through it. Nick is doing a lot of analysis to see what, if the data seems good and what it looks like. So we did go ahead and cancel the RFP for the spending that money, which would have been duplicative of what the state is already doing. So we let the bidders know that no award was made for that particular RFP. And now we've turned our attention to developing an RFP for consulting services, which is what this broadband expansion to unserved is talking about. Trying to now use this excellent data that we're going to have from the state, and what are our next steps? How can we really start to move the dial on serving unserved people in the community? So, and then I also wanted to let you know that we checked, and that online survey that people have been pushing out information to get people to participate in either a mail-in or online survey of kind of the quality and how happy you are with the speed of your service and pricing and all of that. That's running through March 16th. And right now, Tompkins County has had 528 responses as of last Monday, or 1.2% of all the households. So there's more that we could do to get more people to respond if possible. This is really important information. So however we can do that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And as Katie said, I did ask her just to, to go over a couple of topics rather than the whole work plan, because I think that's, little bite-sized pieces of some of the relevant information, I thought would be more helpful to our committee. So I hope people found that useful. Any questions for Katie or anybody in the planning department? Deborah.
Yeah, Katie, quickly, the survey that you just mentioned, that's separate from the survey on the phone service, right? This is just broadband?
This is broadband. That it was called like Empire State Broadband. Shoot, I don't remember the URL right now. Nick, you're on the line. If you find it and can put it in the chat, that'd be awesome.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, Dominic did a bunch of press around it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so this is from New York State asking for the information.
Yes. Yep.
Did folks receive an email about that to help push it out? I know there was wasn't there a press release a little while ago?
Yeah, Dominic's done a fair amount of press on this, and it's been in the paper. I mean, people have tried. It's not easy to get people to do surveys. And I see Nick just popped it in the chat as well, the URL.
Yeah, maybe we can send it out again on our social media and any listservs that we're in. People need reminding.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder, Katie. And I admit I haven't filled it out yet myself.
Great, thanks.
But we have faster dial-up now, so I'm happy with that. Any other questions, comments for Katie or the planning department? Okay. We have a few resolutions. You ready to go over those, Katie?
Yes, although I think we're starting with Joan is the drafter of these items.
Hi, Joan.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And Joan's from our planning department for the viewing audience. So on page 36, you have a resolution reapportionment of grant funds to the 2022 budget for the business energy advisors, and that's new construction. So that's page 36. What would you like to say about that?
What you have in the package is a series of 4 resolutions related to amendments for the start of our 2022 budget. The one you mentioned, which is related to the Business Energy Advisors Program. We have 3 others, one on the Resiliency and Recovery Plan, one on the Kyoga Lake Blueway Trail, and one on our Housing Affordability and Supportive Infrastructure Program. So those are described in the cover memo. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Joan?
I can talk about them individually if you want me to, but I thought, let's try not.
Okay, but can we take them all together?
No.
No, we need to do them each individually. Okay, let's do them individually, put them on the floor, and then see if there's any questions overall before we start putting them on the floor. Okay, so why don't we start with the one that I just read, packet page 36, ID 10713. Would someone like to put that one on the floor for the energy advisors? Deborah? Randy is seconding that. Any questions or discussion?
Just want to thank Joan for her memo explaining that these are all pretty much budget neutral. That's very helpful.
All but the housing affordability one, and I'm happy to talk about that when that's on the floor.
Okay.
Okay, so let's vote on this one here then. Randy,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that one passes. And the next one is authorizing the use of contingency funds for the Housing Affordability and Supportive Infrastructure Grant Program. Someone like to put that on the floor? Randy, seconded by Greg. And Joan, would you just like to say one quick thing about this one?
Yes, these are taking, the proposal here is to take money out of the contingency fund, place it in our budget to cover contracts that we executed at the end of last year. The money was in last year's budget, but none of the expenditures were made last year.
Right, and that happens routinely, so we get resolutions to be able to use that money now.
But
Any
it
questions?
is technically it has an impact on the budget for this year.
Okay. Any questions for Joan? All right, let's vote on this one. Deborah,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that one passes. I like to just keep moving around who I asked for first to make sure everybody's paying attention. Good. Check, see if you can get your speaker on real fast. Okay, that's just me.
Says awake.
Okay, the next one on packet page 38 is a resolution budget adjustment for 2022 budget for the Kyoga Lake Blueway Trail, ID 10711. Would someone like to put that one on the floor? Deborah, seconded by Greg. Any questions on this one? All righty, let's move right along. Randy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that one passes unanimously also. Okay, next one, packet page 39. Budget adjustment for 2022 budget for the Resiliency and Recovery Plan, ID 10710. Deborah is putting it on the floor. Greg is seconding it. Any questions? All righty, let's go ahead and vote on that one. Deborah,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that one passes. Okay, and the next one is packet page 42, authorization to enter into an agreement with the Kyoga Lake Watershed Intermunicipal Organization for 2022 to 2026. Would someone like to put that one on the floor? Greg, seconded by Randy. And I see we have a couple of people here, maybe Darby or Liz. Did you guys want to, or anybody like to say anything about this?
Well, I just will mention it's detailed in the memo on page 43 of the packet, but because it's a 5-year agreement, it's something that needs to be authorized and approved by the legislature. If it's just a 1-year one, it would not come through you guys, but it does mention here that the over target request was included in the 2022 budget. So that's has already been approved and moving through. And this is, as Liz Thomas presented to this group, I know that's a little vague, to peak back in July about the dues funding changes that are proposed. And so that was a discussion that it might be worth some of the newer members take a look at that, or ask Liz Thomas, who's here now and as the chair of the Kyoga Lake Watershed Intermunicipal Organization, could answer any questions on that. But the annual dues will come up in the budget process every year. 2022 dues are included, and then signing this agreement will give the authorization to then make that payment.
Thank
And
you,
I'm just
Darby.
here if there's any questions that I can answer, but I definitely don't want to slow you down. You're doing so well.
We are on a roll. Thank you, Liz. Any questions or comments on this one? Well, thank you for all the great work you do with this organization. And so let's take this one to a vote. Randy? Yes?
Yes.
Deborah?
Absolutely.
Greg?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that one passes. So thank you so much for, and I know Joan already signed off, but Joan, thank you for your assistance with the other resolutions, and Darby and Liz, thank you for this one. Okay,
Thank you.
and next we're moving right on to tourism, and we have Nick here from our planning department. And why don't we get this one on the floor first? This is packet page 44. Resolution awarding 2022 Arts and Culture Organization Development Grants. And that's ID 10691. And would someone like to put that on the floor, Greg? And we have a second from Deborah. Okay. Hi, Nick.
Hello. A little bit of background on this. This is our annual Arts and Culture Organization Development Grant Award resolution. This is a program that the county has been funding since the inception of the tourism program in the year 2000 to help support our local cultural establishments. So the memo outlines a little bit of the background and process we took to get to here. The applications for these grants actually opened up last year, late 2021, and were reviewed earlier this year by a committee of the Strategic Tourism Planning Board. We had 17 pre-applications received, 16 final applications. Total requests came in at just over $424,000. We have a total in our budget for this year of just over $255,000 to award. So yeah, you'll see in the packet there's a summary of the awards that are proposed that the Strategic Tourism Planning Board has recommended. And then there's also a quite detailed memo that goes through the strengths and weaknesses for each of the applicants that was in the program. Yeah, I'm happy to answer or attempt to answer any questions that you have about this. And yeah, that's all I have.
Great. Glad to see that there has been an increase from the 2021 funds available. Deborah?
Yeah, I'm curious why there isn't more available in this fund. Is this just the ACOD?
This is just the ACOD grants.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have a few other rounds of grants you're going to see. Probably if we get our act together next month, we'll have our community celebrations and tourism project grants. And then I believe the following month, we can have our Tompkins Outdoors grants. And then a little later in the year, more project grants, more celebrations grants, and capital grants. One of the things we're doing post in our new grant cycles this year is trying to spread the disbursements out a little more. And in previous years, pre-COVID, it was very front loaded in the very beginning of the year, and that we're trying to not have so many expenses right in the first quarter of the year, basically, so that we have money in the bank to pay these accounts.
Yeah, the reason I ask is simply that your memo notes that the ACOD grant funding increased by 27%. The original 21
Yeah.
budget, but Rick Snyder reported to us at our first February meeting that room tax was up 142% year over year. So I would
That's-
anticipate that we would have a lot more money to support our
I think
organizations.
you're getting the years flipped. So this is 2022 money. He's talking about 21 versus 20. This is 22 versus 21.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and we are doing a budget adjustment. That's another thing you'll see in the next month's packet is the unspent money from 2021 to pull that into 2022's budget. So that will support additional activities in tourism this year.
So will
but
these be the last ACOG grants we see this year, or will there be more?
I expect this is the last ACOG grant you'll see this year. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Greg has his hand up.
Yeah, well, first, a huge shout out to Nick and Megan. They do a great job with this, this grant process. A tremendous amount of detail and time and thought goes into this. So thank you to them. And then, everybody else who is a part of the process, because it's a heavy lift. It's a lot. And these are really incredible organizations that really do a lot for our community. And I'm glad Deborah pointed out the fact that there's maybe an opportunity potentially, I don't want to put words in Deborah's mouth, but that there's obviously a need for more funding in this area. And at some point, I think we should have a discussion or try to figure out ways where we can do that. And we can get this funding to these organizations, because my gut is that there's a little bit of our arts community funding need maybe is outpacing what our room tax can provide. So I think we really will have to look critically at that over time, and hopefully, sooner rather than later. But it's amazing having read all of these applications, and there's just great detail, and there's a lot of passion in our community in various parts that just needs to be recognized and celebrated and ultimately funded, because that's what makes our community such a vibrant tourism destination. So just shout out to Nick and Megan and everybody else for their hard work on this one. But definitely want to try to figure out how we can fund more of this. So it's going to be something I'll continue to push with the group.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, any more discussion before we vote on this? Okay, let's take this for a vote. Deborah?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Randy? And that was a yes, and I'm a yes. So that's unanimous.
That was a yes.
Okay, I was reading your lips, I think. Okay, so that's, and I'm a yes, so that's unanimous. So Nick, and thank you, and please extend our thanks to Megan and to the ACOG board, for all the work that they do on this. We really appreciate it.
Will do. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your meeting.
You too. Okay, next from Ithaca Area Economic Development. I don't know as we have anybody here from that, but they sent a report.
Oh, didn't Heather say that she wasn't going to be able to come? She was just sending a report.
Heather said she wasn't going to be able to. I wasn't sure, remembering from the email, if she was going to send a staff member or just have a staff member send the report. So, okay, any discussion on that? Okay, just to let folks know that I did ask Heather McDaniel to provide us when she can. She's out of town right now. To provide us a timeline for hiring the workforce person. For me, it's for some other folks, that's one of the biggest priorities. And for her IAED used to report to HED, and they were reporting every month with a written report. I think it was every other month with a verbal report along with that. And I said that I thought, every maybe 3 months would probably be fine. I don't think we need to report that often. Even in writing, I don't think we need it. Are folks okay with that? I really don't think we need a written report from them every month. If that sound okay to you, Greg, too? I saw Randy and Deborah shaking their head. And if that changes over time, or if we have, something specific that we want them to report on, sooner than that, we could always ask them to come. All right, moving right along to recycling and materials management. And we have down here an update and a capital summary report. Was there anything you wanted, that Barb, you wanted to update us on?
Yes.
Okay. Any
Okay.
questions on the capital summary report from anybody first? Okay, go ahead, Barb.
Okay, thank you. My first visit to this committee. So if I do anything wrong or you want something done differently, just holler. But my 35th year, so I've worked with other committees before. Real quick, I do have some very good news for you. I've been busy at work behind the scenes trying to find a home for glass to be recycled. And Leo, for you guys is my deputy manager. We are in the process of working with Casella and a company named Tomtra who does all of the bottle bill recycling of glass to come up with something for residents on a pilot basis that is in our purview in the contract. And that would involve a drop spot. There would be a roll off with a specially designed hole, so only the right stuff goes in. The contamination rate with these companies is 0.03%. We can't afford for any contamination to occur. So we will be continuing to proceed. We are looking at a couple options here and some costs, and it's just considered an additional material, and our department can just take care of that. I'm imagining that we're probably, if we can make this happen, I'm, kind of hesitant to feel too completely sure, but I'm 90% sure. And I think that what we will be doing is a little bit of a soft start. We'll go ahead, make sure all the systems are in place in terms of how the operations work. And we'll do our great communication that we do with our stuff to the public. I think lots of people will be very happy, and we'll see how it works out this year. Any questions? Okay.
Hold on, Deborah has a question.
Yeah, I wanted to be sure I understood about this because this is really good news, Barb, and I hope you can make it work. But did you say it would be a resident drop-off? Would it not be?
It would be at the public drop-off area where residents currently go to bring their material ranging from single stream recyclables to garbage to other things.
So Casella wouldn't be picking up the glass.
We couldn't possibly do that. It's
okay.
Very, very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure.
We're
I understood.
also hoping that we can work out a program next year, which is far more difficult with the businesses. But again, the 0.03% contamination. Remember, at the public drop-off, we have an attendant there, and part of the work will be really, quality assurance to check on that. Stay tuned. I will certainly give you the good news. I wanted you guys to hear it as soon as possible that it's in the works, because I've taken a lot of guff for this. So anyway, the most important things I wanted to highlight in our goals and objectives were one.
Barb, hold on. I think, Randy, do you have a question on this topic? I see your hand up.
I have a question on bottles overall. First of all, Barb, I've admired what you've done for many years, so it's good to meet you.
It's really good to meet you too.
Yeah, I've got a question overall just on bottles. So my wife and I have debated this issue. She said if you do have single-use bottles, you should leave the caps on them when you recycle them. So you're supposed to leave
it's
the
fine.
caps.
The machine, it doesn't matter, but the machine that deals with them will take them off. And quite frankly, if it's glass right now, it's just going for daily cover anyway. It's fine.
Okay. And the other one is there's a lot of bottles that aren't returnable, that are plastic, like tea bottles, or they don't have a deposit on them. What's the reason for that? Is it just because it's not part of the bottle law, or
Yeah, it's
like
currently
milk
not part of
bottles?
the
There's a lot of-
existing bottle law. However, there's a really good chance, and I know Deborah's going to be involved with this with the legislative committee. There's a really good chance after 5 years, I've been in Albany twice over this bottle bill and expansion, that this year there's nothing in the way because the former governor is not negotiating with a lot of the wine bottle industry. So it looks very good that it's going to expand to all those juice bottles, those bottles you're talking about, the glass and, other materials as part of the bottle bill, plastic and glass. So stay tuned for that. We'll know a lot more in the governor's budget in April.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Real quick, I have to be even quicker. I wanted to just highlight that I'm really looking forward to the first goal I have about diversity, inclusion, and expanding some of the things we do to the underserved. I'm particularly looking forward, and if you have any contacts or help from me, I'm going to be meeting with Deanna. But if you, in my 1D, seek input from community leaders so that we can learn more about underserved community and who we might include in our communication education plan. That would be very, very helpful. The other thing I want to highlight is that this is the year for us to do our 10-year solid waste management plan. I like to call it the waste diversion plan that the state will need to approve. It's quite a process, and I'm expecting that. So this is a draft plan. The draft plan will go to the public, then to the legislature, to send it to the DEC. There are many regulations that guide this. We are working with a woman from Barton and Judas who is going to guide us through the process, and they've done 14 of these other plans. Our department's doing most of it. We have a good basis, but we really want to make sure we're complying. And like I said, there's going to be a huge public process because, quite frankly, so many people are interested in the work of diverting waste. Third, this is my year to work with the city sustainability manager and their Department of Public Works. They are long overdue for instituting a curbside collection for food scraps that we did a best practices pilot, worked really well, but it's got to be integrated into their collection system of garbage and, garbage primarily. And we have so much knowledge, we have best practice report. And really what it boils down to is how do we partner, who does what, how's it paid for? And certainly we can make recommendations. And I also do want to work with the village of Kyoga Heights as well, because these are both municipal collectors. And I think the participation at the city and the Kyoga Heights drop spots really speak to the interest. So I'll leave it at that for now. We do a program, and I think, Greg learned about this and Randy. We work very intensively with businesses on what we call re-business partners, cradle to grave, dumpster diving, come up with recommendations for how they can save money and reduce waste. We've done probably over 325. We just finished one, by the way, with the Ithaca Farmers Market. As you know, there was no recycling, there was no nothing. And we've made a recommendation report that is going to be discussed with them this week at a meeting so they can fully implement it. And they're hiring a green waste coordinator that's going to implement it. And that's a great partnership. But these re-business partners assessments are just wonderful partnerships with the business community. And don't forget, they pay an annual fee. And we want to make sure that they're offered service so that we can stay legal. But we can talk about that some other day. Finally, we're going to give you a report for each quarter on the financial status. We're an enterprise fund, and we're also going to give you a multi-year, 5-year plan that includes our fund balance. It includes our revenues, our expenses, and our proposed fees, barring any unforeseen circumstances. And I think what we'll do is we'll give you a very, very brief summary of it. But it's important that you feel like you know where things are at, so there's no surprises later. I'm happy to report, and Amanda's not on this committee this year, I realize, but we're making major progress on the county environmental product procurement resolution that was adopted. And we are basically going product by product. I can't even talk. Product by product. And we finished office supplies and best practices, having the full purchasing lineup and our sustainability manager for the county. And Amanda's on it and a number of other department heads. It's a pleasure. And we're now working with cleaning products, sustainable cleaning products for the next few months. We're going to be moving into a review of our existing surplus equipment policy and reuse policy, because it's going to take a village. We need to work with Bill Troy on the legalities, and also, can we do this providing of goods to the reuse center or to other nonprofits? So that'll actually take us from like probably May through latter part of the year. That's all I have to report for today. We do have some resolutions coming. You know, don't forget we have operation. I like your cat's tail. We do have some operation. You know, we have a mix of blue collar and white collar work. So programs, services, operations, and we've got some bids to award at the next meeting, and just stay tuned. I'll try to, at the future meetings, limit this report depending on what you want, but I will give you a heads up on what should be coming your way in the next month or two as action items.
I really do appreciate that you do that.
Sip of something. Oh my goodness.
And Deborah, say hi to Dot. I think that was Dot that went by, right?
That was Dot, yes.
Okay, thought I recognized her tail. Let's see. I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but I was just thinking about you talked about for the county product procurement policy and the committee. So you're talking about office supplies. Is the committee going into cleaning supplies and other
We're doing that
materials?
now. That's what we're going to focus on. And then one of the other things, with Terry's help, I somehow got involved in working on, at some point, we're going to work on the green buildings and making sure that the office furniture and everything that goes in it have green attributes. I will tell you that I'm down a staff person right now, and I have another staff person on medical leave. But I'm so devoted to this topic that if we need a project assistant to do some research work with James and Lori. Lori is so interested in the topic, and we're going to be using the EPA guidelines that recently came out, and we're trying to bring knowledge and information to her so she can do her work. So yeah, we're meeting every month or every 6 weeks, depending on the schedule.
Okay, great. And then just for the folks who might be watching or don't know who you're talking about. So for Terry, you're talking about Terry Carroll, our Chief Sustainability Officer. And then earlier when I'm just always trying to think about transparency.
Thank you.
When you mentioned Deanna, when you're talking about diversity issues and inclusion, Deanna Carithers, our Chief CEDO, Chief Equity and Diversity Officer. So
thank you for doing that. Yeah. Thank
you. And so that will go over. You said so that will include furniture. Does that also include I'm just thinking about
Okay, are we switching back to
Laurie?
EP? Okay, we're
Yeah,
talking about
back to
EPP.
EPP. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, what's going to happen? I just heard about what they're going to do. Terry's taking the lead. And so the way this was left was just a 5-minute briefing. And
Okay.
he is going to follow up with the team as it goes on.
And who were the other folks you were talking about? Lori? Who's
I'm
that?
sorry. Lori is our cleaning supervisor that we now have, who is easy to work with. She's sustainability, she's oriented with sustainability and green purchasing, but she's cost conscious, and she's going to be using the state bid. She's going to be using the EPA sources for everything she does. And Greg Potter, our ITS director, is on that committee, as are a couple other people. I think what I'd like to do is I will go ahead and send for your, before your next meeting, the EPP resolution and the county procedures, so that the folks that are new get a chance to really put their arms around this. And I'd like to encourage questions if there are any in between meetings, because this is an important topic.
Okay, great. Thank you. Randy, did you have your hand up before?
Barb answered my question.
Okay, great.
And when
She's
you
the-
guys are ready for a tour, we're ready for you.
Yeah, they're going
Good
through
tour.
They're taking like 4 or 5 departments every couple of weeks. And I want to come back through for another tour.
I do remember the tour with Deborah, though. That was the greatest fun we ever had.
Oh, I'm just a riot.
It wasn't just you.
No, I know. It was a good tour, Barb. We really appreciated it.
Thank you.
Yeah, the other group is, it will be very entertaining too, I'm sure.
Well, seeing is believing.
I think that's a challenge. The gauntlet is down, so we'll see how you guys do. Let's see, any other questions or discussion on Barb's report?
Should we do her resolution now?
I'm going to wait because there's also an item for budget transfers and things that need approval at the end. I'm just going to tune it out, do my other work, and come back as you need me.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
And then, so next we have workforce development, and we have Lisa. I see you're putting your screen on. So we'll get this one on the floor, and then we'll talk about it. So this is on packet page 63. This resolution for outstanding payment to New York State Department of Labor for the Office of Employment and Training Ancillary Agreement ID 10703. Can someone put that one on the floor? Deborah, seconded by Greg. Okay. Lisa, would you like to give us a little summary?
Sure. I know Rosemary's here too, but this issue predated her, so I said that I would be happy to field it and provide the background.
Okay.
So essentially what this amounts to is we have been underpaying the New York State Department of Labor for rent since our lease agreement expired in 2018. And at that time, they changed the formula by which they were charging us rent in the rent that we share for the Office of Employment and Training in Center Ithaca. Prior to that date, they were charging us essentially 150 square feet per employee. And then they actually went in and measured the amount of space that our staff were occupying in the building and changed the lease agreement so that we were charged accordingly for the direct space as well as the shared space. But at that point in time, we found out through some fun detective work, trying to understand exactly what happened then. We didn't sign a new lease with the Department of Labor, and we had not increased the amount of rent that we were paying. We just continued to pay the previous amount. So essentially, we owe them back rent, and then we also will need to incorporate that new rental amount going forward, so long as we co-locate with them in Center Ithaca. And just to throw in there, and it's in the resolution, but we are required to co-locate with the State Department of Labor for our Workforce New York Career Center. So I had also briefed the F&I committee about this, because it impacts our space needs and those considerations looking forward as well. But the actual paying the piper, that's with this committee here, the PDAC. So.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions from the committee? Okay, thank you for keeping me abreast of this too, Lisa. I know this is came up kind of as a surprise, and trying to figure out how to figure out what was going on and what we owed, and what wasn't very easy. So thank you for doing all this work.
Sure.
Okay,
My thanks
so
to Rosemary too.
Thank you, Rosemary. I hope this wasn't caused too much of a headache for you.
Not at all. My pleasure to get this result.
Okay, let's vote on this one. Randy,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So that passes unanimously. And then also we have for workforce, we have a resolution on packet page 65. This is authorization to enter into a multi-year lease agreement for the Workforce Development Board, and who is currently co-locating with IAED at the Gateway Plaza. So who would like to speak to that? Well, first let's put that on the floor. Who would like to move that? Deborah, seconded by Randy. And I know you also talked about this one, Lisa, at I think it was F&I.
Yes, and just the recap that the current location for Workforce Development Board is at the Gateway Plaza, which is undergoing renovations, and they are together with IAED are going to need to move to new space in the imminent few months for those renovations. So they would like to continue the co-location for the benefits that provides, and IAED has determined a new location, which we also agree is favorable for both parties. We also did our due diligence to see whether we could bring Workforce Development Board staff into space currently owned by the county, and there are no good options at this point for that. So again, another issue where we've also briefed the F&I committee as it relates to our space needs. But as Workforce Development Board reports to PDAC, we're making you aware of this and looking for this authorization to move forward with this new lease agreement.
And I believe that's 4 staff persons, and they'll and so they're gonna co-locate with IAED at the Tompkins
So
Tompkins
so
County.
right now that is still under negotiation.
Oh,
But yes,
okay.
that's they have a preferred, yes, they have a preferred site that they are working with toward that lease agreement.
Okay, so that's still in the works. Okay. Randy?
Yes, Lisa, did we have a current lease at the Gateway building, or was it a month to month, or?
Yes, and Rosemary, you can speak to this, but I believe they're letting us out of that lease agreement.
Correct. So in 2020, we signed a new lease until 2025. And they're allowing us to break the lease without any penalties or fees because of the nature of moving, because they're going into renovations and other circumstances.
But didn't they want us to move? I mean, aren't they telling us to move? I'm confused.
Yeah, so they're telling us to move because that building will serve a different purpose, but we're not going to have any fees or related to moving during the period of 2020 to 2025. That was our new lease.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, is it that's being turned into a different purpose, like a residential, where they're having offices right now on the top couple of floors, right?
Correct. So we're on the 4th floor, and anything above the 1st floor will be all residential units.
It just seems like we're doing them a favor. That's my thought. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're one of the few tenants there. IAD and Workforce Development Board are probably 2 out of 4. So people have slowly moved out. The parking space too will serve another purpose. So parking will be limited for customers and in that area. So a lot of tenants have decided to move out.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Randy. Greg?
Yeah, just a follow up on that and try to be crisp with this one, but they asked us to leave. Or could we have maintained our lease through 2025 there?
Well, no, because they're serving another purpose. So they notified us that those units, those floors are going to be used for something else. So technically they just told us that, eventually we're going to have to move. So.
Yeah, I'm just shocked that, I mean, again, I think it sounds like we're framing this in a way where they did us a favor, where in essence, it seems like we're doing them a favor. And if they're canceling our lease, I don't know. I mean, I get, let's play nice in the sandbox. But
It's not our lease, though. It's
Yeah.
It's
It's
IAD,
IAD.
we're subleased. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
subleased.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I just for clarity for the public forum, we're not doing anybody any favors, but we're just cooperating with the requests of somebody. But I mean, we really could have, or someone could have, it could have gone differently than it has, but I'm glad it's an amicable split between both parties.
Yeah, and there's definitely value in our partnership. So we do want to continue being
Yeah,
working with IAD.
absolutely.
Any other questions for Rosemary or Lisa? Okay, let's take this one for a vote. Let's see, Randy,
Yes.
Deborah,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that passes unanimously. Thank you, Lisa and Rosemary. We really appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
Rosemary, was there anything
Thank
else since we have you here that you wanted to talk to us about?
No, not at all. Well, we're happy to share reports and more information with you in March. Thank you for having us.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Okay, let's move on. The next thing we have are 2 member filed resolution. And so we're on to packet page 67. The first one is calling on Governor Hochul and the New York State Legislature to pass the Birds and Bees Protection Act. Would someone like to move that and put it on the floor? Randy, we have a second from Greg. Okay, and then I have Hannah has come down. I'll let Hannah introduce herself and talk a little bit of, explain where she's from and a little bit about the resolution.
Perfect, thank you. So my name is Hannah Walliar. I'm the Central New York Program Coordinator for Citizens Campaign for the Environment. I'm actually based out of Syracuse, but I cover pretty much Southern Tier and everywhere in Central New York for CCE. We've been working on the pollinator issue for a while and working on neonics and the best way to address them for several years now. So I just want to briefly go into what neonics are and the biggest problems that we're seeing with them. So neonics or neonicotinoids, they're a systemic pesticide that target insects' nervous system. And if it doesn't outright kill the insect or bee, it makes it very difficult for them to home in, find their hive. It messes with their reproduction. So we're having significant decreases in pollinator populations all across the state. So this kind of first came to be a big issue about 15 years ago when beekeepers across the country and in New York, they started noticing some pretty big drop-offs in their pollinator populations in their colonies. It started off losing about like 10 to 15% of their colonies every single year. And then once neonics were introduced, practically overnight, that spiked to them losing about 30, 40, and now 50% of their colonies. Just last year, New York beekeepers, they had their second highest loss rate on record, losing 53% of their colonies. Pretty substantial, especially given where we started before neonics. This has also been a big problem for native bee species. There's over 400 different species in New York. While they're not being bred and reproduced every single year, so we're seeing pretty big die-offs with them as well. These native pollinators, they contribute about $440 million worth of pollination services every single year in New York State. And this is going to be a big issue for a lot of crops that are already pollinator limited. So cherries, blueberries, of course, the state fruit, the apple, where we're already seeing smaller yields because we don't have these healthy native pollinator populations. So there are kind of been, especially in recent years, just a ton of research coming out and a lot of peer-reviewed studies looking at the impacts that neonics have, not just on pollinators, but the environment, water quality, and now a little more recently, human health. So I wanted to kind of touch on each of those just very briefly. The first big concern that we have is that these are extremely toxic to all insect life. Like I said, it targets their nervous system and it pretty much has wiped out and decimated a lot of populations. And since neonics have been introduced, New York agriculture has become 48 times more toxic to insect life as a whole. Just to give that a little bit more context, one neonic treated seed, the active ingredient on just one seed has enough ability to kill over 250,000 bees, and that's just one. They're also, kind of the second point I want to make is they're really good at contaminating the entire.
You say on one seed?
One seed has enough active ingredient to kill over 250,000 bees.
Okay.
So it's having very, I'm sorry?
Just sad.
Yeah. And it gets worse from there, unfortunately. So the way that neonic treated seeds especially are used and how neonics work is, like I said, they're systemic. So when it's applied as a seed coating, as the plant itself grows, the plant becomes toxic and poisonous to insect. It basically turns any plant, crop, or anything else that touches neonics, it turns that plant into the pesticide. When we're talking about neonic treated seeds, only about 2 to 5% of the pesticide is actually absorbed by the plant. The rest ends up in the soil, which it lasts for years. And every time it's reapplied and used year after year, we have that buildup. And what makes it so good at making the plant toxic also makes it very good at contaminating our groundwater and spreading. So anytime it rains or there's irrigation or groundwatering, any neonic, the other 95+% that isn't absorbed by the plant, it gets released down into the groundwater and is contaminating surface waters across the state. If there's a neighboring private well, that is also going to be contaminated with neonics. We've been seeing a lot of studies come out. The USGS back in 2016, they did surface water samplings across the state, and 40% of those samples came back with neonics in them, and often at levels above the EPA's toxicological and regulatory thresholds. So we're seeing these at high levels as well. Where this has kind of been problem for our perspective is when it's becoming in our drinking water. Conventional drinking water treatments, it can't remove neonics. I mean, if you have a more sophisticated filtration system on your well, which is very expensive, it's likely to maybe remove some of it, but not all. For unfiltered drinking water sources in the state or private wells, anytime you turn on the tap, if there's neonics in your water or in your water supply, it's coming out of your tap. So that's going to be a really big problem when we're going into kind of talking about the potential for human health effects, which is kind of our third biggest point.
Can I just say in there, I want to interrupt you. I looked into that because we're where we live, we're adjacent to a lot of farmland.
Mhm.
And so I looked into one of the better filtration systems, and that was about 10 years ago. And it was, at that point, it was $8,000. So I opted to not get that at that point. Go ahead.
And that's not to mention all the other contaminants that are entering our water. We don't need to be exposed to one more. And a lot of people don't have the funds to put that on their water. So like I said before, like when the neonic, it contaminates the entire plant. So the fruit itself becomes contaminated with neonics as well. If you are able to buy organic, you can avoid neonics in that sense, but there's an environmental justice issue where if you can't afford to avoid it, if you can't afford to put the filtration system on, you can't buy organic, you're definitely being exposed to neonics. So this has led to a couple control studies, I believe out in California, where they looked at the human health impacts on neonics. There was 4 studies, and 2 of those came back showing that there is an adverse human health impact. There's been links to congenital malformations, as well as increased link to autism. This can also be pretty concerning for when you think about exposure to children. This is being found in baby food, and even those small doses can have a larger impact on more vulnerable of our populations. So when you combine, this is in our food, this is in our water, it's just leveling up the amount of times you're being exposed, even if it's at low levels every single day. And not to mention, just like really briefly, the farmers that are being exposed when they plant these treated seeds, the dust from it that comes off is particularly concerning for their health as well.
Right, I think in one of the, and I don't know if people had time to read through Hannah's, I forwarded, Hannah sent us a bunch of information. I think one thing I read in there that there's just reports, and there's, you know, of people having being poisoned by these chemicals. I mean, that's just the reports. There's at least 1,600 reports.
It's
Yeah.
It's really a lot of pretty conclusive evidence that neonics are having adverse impacts on our bees, our water, and our health. Even the CDC, they do sampling and testing of urine samples of Americans every single year. And at any given time, 50% of American population has been recently exposed to neonics. So they're finding it in urine samples as well. So we know that we are having it in our bodies. So this kind of leads into like what we're going to be doing about it. And we've been working with the state legislature for several years now, and we're now working in municipalities to kind of build up and address this issue. And this all kind of stemmed where it's culminated and where we're kind of getting most of our information now, where what the state bill is based off of is the 2020 Cornell Report, which essentially did a cost benefit analysis on the impacts that neonics have on pollinators. It looked at the different types of applications, whether it be a spray, a soil drench, or a seed coating. And it looked at the different crops, whether it be field or fruits or vegetables. And it also looked at the ornamental uses. And from that study, it just looked at the impacts that neonics are having on bee populations. Didn't take into consideration the water or human health effects. But it was actually really conclusive. It looked at over 1,100 different peer-reviewed studies. And it found that the highest risk to pollinators and the least benefit to users came from just 2 applications. That was the use of neonic treated corn, soy, and wheat seeds, and then the ornamental uses. So non-agriculture, thinking like lawns, gardens, golf courses, where you're actually spraying it like on flowers where the bees are being directly in contact with it. So this report did look at all those different uses, and it was pretty clear that when it's used as a seed treatment, it does not have a benefit to yield. And even if it is a slight yield benefit for corn, soy, and wheat, that's completely offset by the additional cost that farmers are facing because of their getting this pre-treatment that they're not even asking for. There are also, what this bill does, it is based directly on the Cornell Report. So it would ban the sale of corn, soy, and wheat treated seeds and those ornamental uses. And the agriculture uses alone, they account for about 75% of all neonics used in New York State agriculture. And then the ornamental uses, those account for another about like 10 to 15% more. So by just addressing these uses, we can capture 85 or 90% of all the neonics being used in the state, which is going to have tremendous benefits for our pollinator populations, for our water quality, and our health as well. And there's been just a plethora of studies on all the other different impacts. The Cornell report did look at what the alternatives were, and there are safer alternatives out there. The report actually looked at the yields differences between a neonic treated seed and no pesticide used at all. And there was, like I said, barely any difference in yield, and any increase in yield was offset by the cost of the pesticide itself. And just to kind of demonstrate how targeted this bill is and how specific and surgical it is, a farmer who does not plant would not be planting a neonic treated seed if there is a problem that arises, or if they so desired to do a spray application of neonics while they're planting, they absolutely can do that. However, they won't, because there's no economic benefit for them to do a spray application while planting. A lot of the pests that farmers have been seeing, or not seeing, but a lot of the pests that neonics are claimed to prevent in the first place, actually a lot of the common practices that farmers are already using to avoid like corn seed maggots, those are like, whether that be crop rotation or tilling, all of that has already is being incorporated. So those types of pests aren't a huge problem because farmers are already using these best practices to avoid those in the first place. So having this pre-treatment is not addressing a problem that exists. It's just there and contaminating not only our soil and our water, but also having a pretty adverse impact on other communities or other farmers who are reliant on pollinators and seeing economic losses because of the lack of pollinator populations that we have in the state now. I think that's a good little summary. If I could answer questions, or if there's any other things you'd like to know.
Thank you very much, Hannah. I'm going to take Randy in a second. I see you have your hand up, but I just wanted to add that Randy and I were at the Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board meeting that was on Wednesday, I think that was. And because that meeting was coming up, I asked Hannah to go to that, since she was helping with this resolution. I asked her to go and to talk to them to see what they thought. And so after that meeting, Hannah and she did a lot of research, and I did some research, and we looked at the different things that were brought up by the board, the concerns that were brought up by that board, and we went through them one by one. One of the biggest ones I will say was brought up is, let the DEC handle this. Like, if it's such a big thing, let the DEC take care of this. And so there's one of the things that was brought up in some of the literature that Hannah sent us that really struck me was, at what point are we going to wait? Are we going to wait till, we see documented increased risk of cancer and document, more increased risk of birth defects and all these things, so I don't want to wait till we get to that point where there's that kind of damage done to people. And I think it's said in here, so you feel free to correct me, Hannah, that the DEC does not regulate seed coatings.
Yeah.
They actually cannot regulate it. So is that correct?
Yeah, the DEC has kind of been pushing on, we've been meeting with them a lot, and they did not believe that they were able to regulate the seeds themselves, that was up to Ag and Markets, but Ag and Markets only covers the labeling of the seeds. So there is this void on seeds. So DEC does regulate and can address other types of spray pesticides. They are taking steps to restrict use for those ornamental uses, but that just takes them off the shelves at Home Depot. And we still have like pest management and landscapers who can use them. But yet DEC is pretty strong in their opinion that they could not be regulating the seed coatings themselves.
Okay, thank you. Randy? Can you turn your microphone on?
I see you again, Hannah. We actually have 7 acres organic fields that we have, so we understand it, and definitely the bee population has changed. I have a couple questions. Now, are the neonics, are they outlawed on the retail level now? I mean, the sprays?
They're not banned yet. The DEC is starting to take action to restrict them. Actually, a couple
No,
of
it's not.
companies.
Okay, that's not part of this bill, though.
This bill goes a step further, making it so that the applicators, the landscapers, the pest management, they wouldn't be able to use them either. So right now,
Okay.
it just prevents people from buying them at the stores, not the bigger applicators.
Okay. And how long have these been in use? The neonic?
Only about 15 years. And the fact that, I know 15 years kind of seems like a long time, but it is a short time for a pesticide and a man-made product to wreak this much havoc on an entire ecosystem.
Okay. And so this would take effect if it's passed January 1 of 2023. Is that correct? Or
Yes, I know that's next year. We're working right now with the State Assembly and Senate, and there's probably going to be some amendments in the timeframe since that bill was first introduced last year. So they might have that effective date pushed back a year, but that's still in the works.
Right, and that, if I could add in there, Randy, because one of the things that Hannah and I talked about was if the other seeds that are not treated are not readily available, that might be something that is added to the legislation, that then there would be bump back until those other seeds are readily available.
Yeah.
That aren't coated.
That is currently in the language, so it does have that kind
Oh,
of.
it is?
Yes.
Okay.
It does have that safety net built in that because I know corn seed was the only seed that pretty much like about 100% of corn seeds in New York State come pre-treated unless they're the special organic ones.
Yeah.
So they're automatically like that. So we've heard from seed dealers saying that we've been working on getting neonic treated seeds on the market. They're ready to go. It's just kind of putting in that barrier. So if a farmer cannot get a non-treated corn seed, and it would cause an undue burden on them, that would be suspended for another year or so, I believe, until the market can kind of fill in that gap and it would be cost effective and not be a burden on the farmer.
and what would that be, that process? Would they then go to the DEC for like a 1 year opportunity
Yeah.
to continue to use it, or how does that work?
So the DEC would be taking a look at that themselves. So it wouldn't be the individual farmer having to worry about going to the DEC saying, I can't get this. The DEC is going to look at the market, work with seed dealers. And if a seed dealer, like the people who are actually selling them to the farmers, can't provide an untreated seed, there'll be room for the exemption. So the farmers themselves, they'll still go to their same seed dealers. They'll still have the same connections. It's just the type of seed that is provided by the seed dealers themselves.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Randy, for your questions. Any other questions from committee members or anybody? Okay, thank you. All right, why don't we take this for a vote? Deborah,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. And Hannah, you're welcome to stay. We have a
Yeah.
couple more things. It's up to you. But
I'm
thank
actually
you.
very interested in the EPR that comes up. That's another really awesome one that you guys
Okay.
are working on. But
Well,
thank you, guys.
And thank you for driving down to Syracuse twice to talk to us about this issue. This is really helpful.
My pleasure.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. And the next resolution is on package page 70, and this is a resolution in support for the New York State Legislature to establish an extended producer responsibility system for packaging and printed paper. would someone like to put that one on the floor? Deborah, seconded by Greg. And Deborah, would you like, and I know Barb has also been working on this, would Deborah or Barb like to talk about this?
I'll defer to Barb. I
will.
got this
If you
move-
need me.
Yeah, I kind of got this moving because I know this is something we've been trying to get passed into law for quite a long time. And I think its moment has finally. I would note that I think the crisis in the economics of recycling is really starting to move even industry to understand that it's necessary that industry takes some responsibility for the costs of recycling. I know in other states, they impose taxes on products in order to pay for recycling. And that's not the course we're choosing here, but in those states, even some of the business organizations are starting to be on board with it and not resist it so much. We've got to do this because otherwise we can't keep recycling. And even though recycling ultimately is not going to be the answer, we need to continue recycling along with other things. So I'll let Barb take it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'll be really brief. There's plenty of information in summary out there for somebody that wants to dive in. Basically, I've been involved with the New York State Product Stewardship Council as a member for about 4 years. This has been lobbying in Albany. I actually remember going there this time of year as well. And it's failed every year because the previous governor didn't want it to happen. I really think Deborah's right. There's momentum, NISAC, many environmental organizations, and some real leaders in the state. What's good about it? It's good because the producers will have to take responsibility for their packaging, both in terms of creating sustainable products, whether they be environmental products or recyclable products, or change their packaging to reduce it. It's also good because they will have to form a PRO, a product responsibility organization. They will guide, as they have in Canada and in Europe, the way this is going to work under the law that's adopted. There's different ways of going about it. Some have not worked. Others have worked really well. And I really believe in the work that I know about from our group, the resolution that we developed and that's being put forward and shared and modified here or there is the best practice. And I believe that how expensive recycling has gotten in this county. It's 4 times more money. I would not exactly call the operators who are really garbage haulers the heroes in all of this. I think that it is a good idea for the producers to do just what they've done in Canada, like Unilever, Procter & Gamble. They give different products to people in Canada than they do here. And I also think that we shouldn't be footing the entire cost of the recycling, including collection and processing, as a government agency. And we keep having to increase our annual fee. There's CPIs on all these costs, and it's painful. I believe also it has caused a stagnant recycling rate, and that's true here. And it's been proven because a lot of places can't afford to do this, and they stop doing the collection. That was decided last year. That was not this legislator's intent, but we still have to deal with the cost. Finally, I like the philosophy of polluters pay. And I really feel when you really look at pay as you throw, what was that financial incentive all about that we did back many years ago? I wanted it because the people that throw away the most should be paying the most. And I think that there's some interesting analogous situations. Also, the infrastructure, in terms of, say, the Ontario County, in terms of the Casella facility that has all the bells and whistles in Ontario County, and many others, they need upgrading. There needs to be systems improvement. So for example, they address the glass issue in a holistic way and a number of other items. Of course, what Deborah was talking about, and Deborah's been a proponent, as has Ann all along, is how do we stop the plastic pollution? And this is directly tied into it. It's tied into lowering greenhouse gas emissions. It fosters a circular economy, which is always a conversation. And I think that's all I really need to say. It's pretty clear to me that the time has come. And thanks, Deb, for letting me speak.
Thank you, Barb.
And I had the news on, just want to add, had the news on earlier today, just listening to the updates regarding Ukraine, which I just want to put in here. I know we're talking about something else, but my heart and prayers go out to the people in Ukraine. But a commercial came on during the news, and I ran in from the other room, but I couldn't catch it in time to see what company it was. But there was a commercial from some producer advocating full cycle. And I was like, is this Pepsi? Is this what? But it was a commercial about that, and I had never heard that before. So the tide is changing, and so glad to support this resolution.
One quickie.
And then
Deb,
Randy.
I can't remember the date and time, but we got word that there's a really good webinar for an hour, and there are representatives. The producers are being represented that are in favor of this. The tide is absolutely turning, and you guys are absolutely right. I'm so grateful that I can report this to your committee and that you're taking this action. It's great.
It's a small thing we can do. Randy?
Yes, this is very interesting. Actually, this is the industry I came from, which was packaging. And I will tell you that Coca-Cola was zero waste in their own factories 15 years ago. They told all their suppliers that if you send us anything we can't recycle, we're going to bill you. And so they did. So most companies.
That's so cool to know about.
Yeah, within 2 years, most companies adhered to it. One of the biggest issues they had was wax. It was a big problem. Anything that had a wax coating on it was a big issue, but they found ways around it, and it was more expensive. And so they're very Cargill, all these companies are very focused on reducing, one, because it reduces their cost, but because there is going to be a tax that comes their way.
You're going to see amazing things, Randy, with this. With when you look, I went to a product stewardship conference about 7 years ago in Canada as an introduction, and all of these companies, you wouldn't know they were the same company in the U.S. as they are in Canada. All the packaging.
Right.
If you force people to do it, they can do it and they will do it. But if you don't force them, they're just going to do things the way they always have.
Right. And it's the dollar that makes them do it. It really is the dollar that makes it. If it costs them something, they'll do that. And they actually saved millions by figuring out a bunch of things beyond that. So there are some residual values of what you do. One of the things that would help me, Barb, at some later point, not now, it'd be just to see the types of things in categories that you can't recycle, that are cost you so much money, like certain types of plastic bags, or whatever.
You know what? We have that. All you have to do is look at the recycling brochure that we give to every resident and check the non-acceptable. And we can have a further conversation with somebody on my staff as well.
Right. Okay. I'd just like to be educated about it. I think I've read that.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Barb, and thank you, Deborah. So let's take this one for a vote. Randy?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Barb? No, just kidding. Deborah?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that passes unanimous. Thank you, everybody, for that. And Barb, did you want, we have on our list here our committee goals, but since you have the budget adjustment and transferred. Just wanted to ask folks if you had anything to say about that, Barb, or did you just want to see if anybody had any
I'm happy to
questions?
wait. I'm very curious because I know the process of setting goals at the F&I committee. I'd like to observe the process that you go through, not necessarily only about what we do. So I'm going to stay put.
Okay, great. Now I'm a little nervous because I'm not talking about the goals in front of you. I will just say, now,
It's a
So-
public meeting. Why not?
that's true. You could watch it over and over on Zoom. So now I'm not nervous at all. Packet page 72. I put in here just a few things off the top of my head about committee things that we might consider for our committee goals. And I will say they weren't all quite off the top of my head. Number 3 from the food system plan, when I met with the folks that are working on the food system plan, they actually gave me those. So I said, that was great. You know, if we had any department, any liaison board, any group that we're working with wants to tell us how we can support them, that's actually, you know, I find that really useful. So I put that in there. So I'm gonna just go through these briefly, and then if anybody has any questions as we go along, just go ahead and raise your hand or go ahead and chime right in. You don't even have to raise your hand. So the first one I thought is one of the main things we do, as I mentioned earlier, is to review the work plans and support all departments which report to PDEC. And second is the liaison committees and boards. I wanted to see how we could increase our support of them, improve the communication and coordination. And part of that, it's not written down here, but as part of that is asking them to come to us too and give us a report once in a while of what they're working on. So as we had the assignments earlier today for the liaison committees and boards. So what I'm asking some of the boards all the ones that I go to. And so I'm asking you to ask, those boards that you go to, if it's appropriate, or to bring information back. STPB, I don't know whether we'd have them come to us or not directly, but it could be you bring something back and say, hey, this is something that they're working on. Some of the other boards like CASE and EMC, I've asked them to come and to talk to us. So once in a while, let us know what we're working on. And so the food system plan, I'm going to review those real quick. Review and adapt the food system plan. So they're going to be coming to us, in May. And Randy and I saw a review of what they've been working on at the Ag and Farmland Protection Board the other night. They gave us a review of what they're working on. And so they're going to be coming in May to this board. They might come earlier just to give a quick preview of that, just to get us kind of give us a little teaser. But they've been working on this. This is a plan that the county asked to have this done a couple of years ago. So this is where this came from. So this group has been working on this. So they'll come in May to give us their final draft report. And then it's up to us, this committee, and then the full legislature and I'm not sure what the words, would be. Maybe Deborah knows more, but whether we would approve it, adopt it, but somehow they want us to, to sign off on this. And they want help finding a place for their food system coordinator. So this will be a full-time person. So they might be located, at CCE. We're not sure exactly. But they want to find a place for this person because that was one of their major recommendations, of that this person is going to be a full-time person working just on this. And one of the first things I asked them was, who's going to be paying for this? And they said this would be part of their their funding stream, applying for grants, looking at different organizations to chip in and help fund that. So they already have a plan in place for that. They said it's not something that they're going to be coming to the legislature and asking us to fund. So I was happy about that. Input on the coordinator role and what should be considered going forward to best support them. So again, they'll be filling us in more on that. And would PDEC and the legislature be helpful in being the guiding body for the food service plan and its coordinator? So again, that's something that they'll be coming to talk to us about, but keep that in mind. Would we want that? They want to help for accountability and communication back and forth with the county. For instance, would this entity, would this committee be where they would report to? Any comments so far, questions? Okay, good. Soil and Water Conservation District. This I remember from last year, so I just put down a couple of brief things that they've talked about before, is that they had difficulty with funding several other programs, so they thought it might be good to figure out how to get some matching funds for some of their programs.
It's not so much the programs, Annie. It is more an issue around some of the staff positions. The thing we've had a notable difficulty with is hiring a water engineer,
Right.
which is something that the district really needs. And we gave them money for it in the budget, I think in 2019 or 2020. But because administration didn't want that engineering position to be paid at a much higher rate than the other engineering positions throughout county departments, they put a cap on how much we could offer. When I say we, I mean the Soil and Water District, how much we could offer for that position. And it just wasn't a competitive salary level. So, one of the issues is just trying to figure out how to pay for this very specialized position. And there's an ongoing conversation that the Soil and Water District got its financial act together really well under John Negley's leadership. And now there are surplus funds which they can consider adding to the money the county allocated, and maybe we could post the position at a more competitive rate. But this is just an ongoing problem.
Okay, thanks, Deborah, for filling us in on that. And thanks to you and Randy for agreeing to be on the Soil and Water Board again. Well, for Deborah for being on it again, and for Randy doing that. So let me know for those folks if you have any, if you need help connecting with who did the various boards that you're on. Let me know if you need help connecting to figure out when they meet and how to go about connecting with who's in charge of those. And the last one that I put down here was cryptocurrency data centers. And Guillermo Metz is here representing the CASE board, the Climate and Sustainable Energy board. And so I'm going to first just read what this is. So what I put down was explore massive energy usage of Bitcoin type of cryptocurrency. And then can we discourage or prevent Bitcoin data centers? Meaning, could we discourage them in this county? Could we discourage them in New York State? For me personally, I'm not fond of cryptocurrency data centers, and I'm especially most concerned about the kind that mine Bitcoin as they are exponential. They use an exponential amount of energy.
Depends on their validation system.
Yeah, how they mine.
Yeah, if
how
they
to
use
mine the
proof of
data.
work.
Right. And so this was, we don't really have the staff bandwidth to look at this. And so I am hoping that the case board can help us, look into this a little bit for us and help us delve into this a little bit more. Guillermo, did you want to say anything else?
No, thanks, Annie. Essentially, I'm just here to listen to what the legislature and this committee might be interested in the case board taking on. There's some interest within the case board, and I just wanted to hear what the interest might be from this committee. Like Annie said, we probably do have some capacity and some interest in looking into this further, whether it's the specific issues around Bitcoin mining and how it relates to the power plant that's in the county. We could focus on that. We could work with Lansing and try to figure out, what might be regulated in terms of that, or on a broader scale, what the county could say in terms of support for this at the state level. There's a bunch of different options. I see some hands up, I think.
Yeah, Deborah?
Oh, Greg had his hand up first. Let's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see his hand there. Greg, and then
It's okay.
Deborah?
I guess my only thought, and I'm more than happy and excited to look into this as a topic more. My comment comes more on how we frame and write our goals. There may be a consensus on the conclusion before we go down this path to look at it, but I would just maybe ask that we frame our goal into further, explore and identify, use less definitive terms, discourage or prevent, right? That may be a conclusion that the committee comes to, but we should, what's the impact on Tompkins County? What's next for cryptocurrency or cryptocurrency mining. Again, I don't understand necessarily how it all works, and I'm learning daily, like the rest of the country, about all this stuff. But I just would hope that we could phrase that goal differently, to not have such a definitive statement in the goal itself.
Investigate impact.
Investigate impact, right? Using
cryptocurrency,
more exploratory terms so that we're not, putting our conclusion before, the question. But more than happy to look at the impact that this has on Tompkins County and our community and our energy resources, but don't want to draw any conclusions personally before I have more information.
Sure, and Deborah, thanks, Greg. And Deborah, did you have a suggestion? You were starting a suggestion on how to rephrase that 5B?
Well, I would just suggest that it could be phrased as, we will investigate the impact of cryptocurrency proposals on Tompkins County. One of the questions that I have for the case board, of the alternative options that Guillermo mentioned, I would say yes, yes, and yes. But Bob Howarth is sort of an ex officio member of that case board. And I'm just wondering if he could provide any input on what the Climate Action Council has to say about Bitcoin mining, because it would seem to me that going forward on that front, at least insofar as we allowed Bitcoin mining that used proof of work validation, would seriously undermine our efforts to beneficially electrify other sectors of our economy that are now fossil fuel dependent. And I just can't imagine why the Climate Action Council's proposed plan would say, oh yeah, and data mining is a-okay, when it uses, especially the proof of work validation data mining, uses every every piece of Bitcoin that gets mined uses up as much electricity as an average household does in, what is it, a week? Or is it a longer period of time? I can't remember exactly, but it's an astronomical drain on our electric grid and electric production. So, yeah.
Thank you, Deborah. Randy, did your question get answered? Did you have
I
your hand
agree
up?
with Greg.
You agree with what?
What Greg said. I found.
Okay. And so, so Brittany, did that give you something to rephrase that? Okay, thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. As I said, this is just a first pass. And so, Guillermo, does that help you bring it back, at least, looking at, does this align, with the CAC recommendations? And
I think, yeah, it's a start. And I think that what you said earlier as well, that, a back and forth with this committee would be useful so that we can, provide what we find and then just hear back on what the priorities are from the county. That would be very helpful.
I know from just my own thinking that you mentioned too the energy plant that's
URUT or the power plant, Kyoga Power.
yeah
Plant,
that
Kyoga Power.
and I've asked through many different avenues, could we have some assurance that they are not going to do the high energy intensive
They won't give it to us.
Bitcoin mining it, and they coming at it from various avenues, right? And we have not gotten that assurance, and so yeah, so I would, for me, I would say go ahead and see if there's anything that you can do, working with the town, especially how are they feeling about it, and so yeah, I guess yes on all of those things. Does that sound okay to the group to go ahead and all of those things that Guillermo mentioned? Okay, thank you. And then I wanted to open it up to the board. Is there anything off the tops of your heads or things you've been thinking about that you'd like to add to our committee goals? Deborah, is that a new hand you have up?
It's a new hand.
New hand. And then Randy?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a document that was included. I didn't see it that relates to these goals. So maybe you've already got it on your goals, Annie, but my feeling is that workforce development should be a major focus of our goals this year as a committee. What ways can we promote workforce development in Tompkins County? What organizations and institutions are working on workforce development, and how can we help them? I know that TC3 is embarking on this pilot program, which is really beneficial. I'm hoping that our workforce development board and IAED will work closely and collaborate with TC3 in any way that they can. And I really want to make sure that the workforce development staff person at IAED that we have been asking for since I got on the legislature is finally hired.
So thanks for bringing that up. So does this kind of summarize what you're saying? What ways can we promote and support workforce development and coordination in Tompkins County?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. And Brittany, is that okay? You like listen to this again, you get that out of there. You don't need us to write that out. Thank you. Randy?
Yes, now this committee, housing is included, correct? Is housing in this committee?
No, housing is now in HHS. Health and Human Services Committee.
Okay, which I'm on too, so I'll bring it up there then.
With the
Okay.
exception of the Community Housing Development Fund, which stays in this committee.
No,
Okay.
no,
No?
no. So, no, they report to HHS too.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Thanks, Annie. Sorry.
Yep. No worries. So I'm having now so the name of that board, Community Housing Development Fund. Henry Granison and I are on that board. Greg is the alternate. And and I was recently elected chair of that, which I'm honored to do. And that all reports to HHS. And I just wanted to acknowledge, all the work that the previous chair, Martha Robertson, did. I'm going to do my best, but she leaves big shoes to fill. Speaking of that, I remembered there was something that she had added that I completely forgot. I said I was going to, I wrote it down and then I completely forgot. When we, the resolution for the extended producer responsibility, the resolution that we just passed, before we had put, added in, when we passed something similar about, I don't know if it was a different bill or maybe it's the same bill, it was about a year ago. We had added in newspapers to be exempted. Just, is that?
It's in the current bill, isn't it, Barb? The
Is that
exemption for
exempted in
newspaper?
It is, because what happened is the Product Stewardship Council got that input and so did the state, and they took it out. It's just paper as it relates to packaging.
Okay, so we're all set for that. Okay,
I'll
great.
double check to be 100% sure, but I'm 95% sure.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, now getting back to our goals, anything else that anybody wants to add? And it doesn't have to be, just today. This is a fluid thing as things come up, throughout the year. Certainly if it was something, that we decided, 3 months in, let's have, Barb's department work on this, we really can't do that unless it's like really, really important. We can't just, dump work on different departments. This is more things that we're going to be doing. Randy?
I'm sure I'll come with something, but I have to go to another meeting I'm a little late for, so I'm gonna go to CC meeting, so I'm gonna have.
Okay, great. Oh, we're over time. Yeah, thank you very much, Randy.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay,
I'm in the same boat, Ann, as Randy, with Air
Okay.
Services Board meeting at 3:30. So since
Well,
our goals are fluid, is there any way we can maybe pick up the goals discussion if there's more to discuss next meeting?
yes.
After
Why don't we
digest-
stop there? Yep, why don't we stop there? And I think we're.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
No.
Okay. Oh, wait, Barb,
We
go
have an
ahead.
action item. I got all these millions of transfers that are going to go to the legislature.
Well, it's
Oh, I thought
information
we had it.
only. It's information only. We don't need to vote on it.
No,
But
it's not.
What, it's not?
It's not. No, there's anything that's more than $5,000 has to be approved by the committee. And I think if you're out of time and you know that this isn't going until the second legislative meeting, you can figure out how you want to address it so that they can take action, because Rick will be mad at us if we don't.
Why is it
Well,
just says on our thing, Brittany, information item? Is that a mistake or?
That's the way it was submitted to us. And I'm opening the attachment.
So how would we even vote on that?
I'm not sure.
Can we, because we don't have a resolution.
Take it up, but let's make sure that it goes to the legislative meeting if it needs to on.
Resolution forms.
Okay, just, yeah, if you can resubmit it in a resolution form, well, because it's not in a resolution form for this.
No, it's not supposed to be.
It's not?
It's this is the way Rick wants it, and it's always been done this way.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion quickly while Greg is still with us that we accept these budget transfers as they appear, and Greg just seconded it. Everybody who wants to vote?
Okay.
Okay. I vote yes, Deborah votes yes, Greg votes yes. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Okay, well, anything else is tabled till next time. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you. Bye.